We don't need roads.
Chris, an honor to see you, man. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you.
Jake, thank you. Appreciate it, pal.
I'm going to jump into this. I know when it comes to the transformation in any version of Wolfman, so much attention is paid, rightfully so, to the makeup. But I know as an actor, you still have to do things with your face to sort of accentuate the makeup. I'm sort of curious, what are some of the weird physical transformations you had to do with your own face or your jaw in order to make the makeup work?
Yeah, well, I think I had to do something that I would never do normally, which is like look at myself in the mirror and like not act a little bit, but like sort of do faces and do. I would never do that. I would, but it's really that because you need to make sure you're conveying. You have a different face on, so you need to make sure you're conveying what you need to convey, and hopefully that comes across. So truthfully, it really just involves me having to do more than I would normally do.
You mentioned not loving to look at yourself in the mirror. I would have a cell phone full of selfies of me in the Wolfman makeup if I were in your shoes. Like, do you have a phone full of images of yourself, or did you not take any of yourself?
I don't know if I was supposed to, but of course I do.
Yes. Can I ask you like who you sent them to? Like, did you secretly send them to anybody when you weren't supposed to?
No, I just showed them. I would just like I would in person. I would show them. Yeah, I didn't send them to anybody.
Fair enough. They're not going to take you out of the movie now, man. You're in it.
It's too late, and I don't care.
Yeah, fair enough. As I'm sure you know, Universal was for a while trying to make the dark universe, all of the old Universal monster movies in one sort of universe together. Obviously, Lee's already given us Invisible Man and now Wolfman. I'm sort of curious if you could see your character go toe to toe with any other iconic Universal movie monster. Who do you think you'd have the most fun sort of looking in the eyes of?
Well, but you know what my dream scenario would be, where it wouldn't be a horror, it wouldn't be anything scary. I want to see something sort of. I would like to see a boring sort of dry comedy with these characters all together, like as if they've all sort of given up on their whatever plights that they have, and now they're just trying to live day to day, mundane lives. Like who wouldn't want to see Wolfman try to get a job as a security guard or something. You know what I mean? I think I would like to see that movie.
Right now, there's someone behind the scenes at the studio going like, "Yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds amazing."
I said it first.
Yeah, you got it, man. Well, as we wrap up, speaking of the old Universal monster movies, it's obviously that's a different era. It's a different type of Hollywood. It's a different type of directing and acting than we're used to today. But I'm sort of curious, as an actor, what is the most important lesson you can still pull from movies like that? That even though we are 80 years, almost coming up on 100 years,
Yeah.
that it's still applicable even today.
Well, I think there's obviously over the years even just the general style of acting out right has changed a lot, and I think what this movie allowed me to sort of do a bit, and that I can sort of take from those older movies is, not I don't mean to say like to be broad, but like also because of the prosthetics and everything, you're sort of forced to, let's say overact a little bit. You know what I mean? Especially like in the prosthetic, and it's almost theatrical. You know what I mean? At times, and so to sort of be, I think it's every actor, including myself. You're always worried. And you want to be subtle, and it's nice sometimes just to give yourself the freedom to sort of go big, and there are moments in this movie where. I sort of allowed myself to go big, and mostly because I had to.
Well, that goes back to what you were talking about, like doing faces in the mirror, things that you normally wouldn't do. Very cool.
That's right. Exactly.
Hey, man, I really enjoyed this conversation, man. You're my first junket interview of 2025, so thank you for starting the year off great, and congratulations on this, man. I really do appreciate your time. I know you have a busy day.
No, I appreciate it, pal. Thank you.
All right, good to see you, buddy. Take care.
Nice one.
Julia, always an honor. Good to see you again. Thank you for
hi,
taking the
good to
time.
see you.
I'm going to jump into this. I truly love you in this movie. And I always feel like I'm a huge horror fan. In the history of horror movies, I feel like oftentimes spouses of the main characters often yield brilliant characters and brilliant performances. I think of Shelley Duvall in The Shining and The Bride of Frankenstein and John Cassavetes in Rosemary's Baby. So I'm sort of curious, when so often a spouse can be an underwritten character, why do you think the horror genre so often knows how to capitalize so well on them?
Because they're receiving the information, and it's always more interesting playing the person receiving information than giving information.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, or receiving experience, and that's the case. But so it's always more interesting to listen.
Particularly in regards to things that are often happening in the horror genre. Because I'm thinking now about the ones I just listed out, and that makes 100% like you're the recipient of the crazy things that are happening.
Yes, because then it gives you a place to go.
Oh, that's super cool. That's a great answer. Thank you. Speaking of Rosemary's Baby, you have experience jumping into well-known horror stories. With that, it was a direct prequel. I'm sort of here. It's it's a new vision, and sort of curious as an actor, what is the difference between how you approach something that is a direct prequel to a story we know well versus more of a reimagining of a story we know well?
I think the prequel was kind of one. Well, that one, in Rosemary's Baby, which is one of my favorite movies, you didn't know Terry D'Onofrio. You didn't know her. So it was kind of like you could have a fresh start, but the world was already pre-created in a way. But it was a story that has been told, but it was being told in like a different way. I've seen the other Wolfmans previously, but even outside of this, like before I was even attached, but I didn't rewatch those movies before this film because I felt like it was very different than those other movies, even from how it was written. So I kind of was more focused on the human of the script in a way. And then how was I going to react to that when, my husband was starting to slowly like disappear, basically.
I truly love how intimate the movie is. I kind of like how, it's not a huge, massive, sprawling piece. Like it almost, as crazy as it sounds like, could be done on stage. And I feel like, you wouldn't have to make that many adjustments and it would work. I'm going to cut you loose on this. You have a great taste in movies. I know all about Eve is one of your all-time favorites. And I'm sort of curious when it comes to sort of the older Universal monster movies. That's a different era of Hollywood. It's a different style of acting and a different style of directing and movie making. But as an actor, what are lessons that you still pull from that era that even though we are now approaching almost a century later, they're still applicable today as much as they were then?
I always say people don't change, time changes.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean by that?
People don't change. Human behavior is the same. You mentioned All About Eve. If you rewatch that film, the same things still happen today in Hollywood. It's just, but there's no like social media. I mean, it's a completely different era, but human behavior, human emotion, that always should be the same because it is the same. That never changes in a way.
And and that All About Eve is even I was rewatching His Girl Friday with someone the other day,
oh my god,
and it's
isn't that an incredible? It's so funny. People don't know that movie enough.
But it's funny because it's one of those things. It's like I always tell people. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like it's one of those things that I always tell people like you've seen it even if you haven't seen it because there have been other versions of it.
Well, also the writing's so incredible because they really think outside the box because they couldn't say things so much back in the day, so they had to be really clever.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. I could talk about old movies with you all day. Thank you for geeking out with me. You're always so great to talk with you. Chicago loves you, and I appreciate your time. Thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Good to see you again.
See ya.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.